Here is a video by a YouTuber, Deflate, trying to explain why there is no meaning in atheism, which, uh, atheism, uh, by definition, is the rejection of claims of uh, divinities due to a lack of evidence. So, let's see if you can actually find no meaning in it.
I don't know how many times I've come across atheists who say that even though our universe is meaningless, one can still lead a meaningful life. Statements such as these sound nice for sure, but sounding nice is not quite the same thing as making sense. And since atheists usually take pride in their alleged commitment to rationality, a fishy statement such as "there is no objective meaning to the universe, but you can still create your own meaning" certainly deserves some scrutinizing. That's exactly what this video is about, and what you'll learn by the end of it is that any atheist talk about creating your own meaning in an otherwise meaningless universe is nothing but a grandiose exercise in self-deception.
Okay, so what he's saying is that atheists who say that, there's no meaning to the universe, but your life can have meaning, are lying to themselves? So that the universe doesn't have meaning and, your life doesn't have meaning, or the universe does have a meaning and your life does also have a meaning? Wonder what he's actually talking about. But if he's talking about the universe having a meaning and people's lives having a purpose, that doesn't really actually deal with atheism.
This is Lucas from Deflate countering the skeptics' objections to Christianity. If you're new here, click that subscribe button to get our upcoming videos. So let's start with a simple observation. Generally speaking, on atheism, the natural world is all there is. Reality is ultimately made up of matter, and everything you see can be broken down into the particles of physics.
Okay, so far he is totally wrong about what atheism is. Like I said before, it's just the rejection of claims of a divinity. There are still people who are atheists, but believe in a lot of weird things about the world. They believe in some supernatural stuff, ghosts and all that. So he's actually not really getting to the point of atheism itself, just the fact that people who are atheists have various scientific beliefs. Well, the ones that do.
This, of course, includes you as a human being. According to atheists, you're just a somewhat more complex arrangement of matter and thus only slightly different from a brick stone. Well, okay, unlike a brick stone, you're at least a living organism made up of cells with the ability to reproduce, but don't ever think that you're somehow special. No. Just like the mosquito annoyingly buzzing over your head at night or the mouse roaming your backyard, you're nothing but a collection of randomly mutated genes and biomolecules which natural selection graciously picked in the course of history.
That's not all that wrong, though natural selection didn't graciously pick. It was just those genes at the moment were the best suited for allowing an organism to survive in the environment that it was.
And that's because at the bottom layer of reality is just raw matter. Ever since our purposeless universe inexplicably popped into existence with neither cause nor goal. What's more, that universe is slowly but steadily running out of energy until it will die the so-called heat death, which will mean that at some time in the future, neither movement nor life will be possible anymore, as the universe will return to the randomness, nothingness, and meaninglessness from which it emerged in the first place. So far, so good. I'm fully with the atheist hypothesis. But now comes the not so subtle atheist sleight of hand. Because instead of actually being consistent and affirming that the meaninglessness of the universe necessarily implies the meaninglessness of his or her own existence, the atheist now simply turns around and claims that you can nevertheless create your own subjective meaning. You may rally, for example, for some cause of social justice, devote yourself to animal rights, donate to the Richard Dawkins Foundation, or simply enjoy yourself and eat ice cream while sunbathing at the beach.
Well, yeah. I mean, you create whatever goals you want in your life. That's just, part of being a human. If you want your life to have meaning, yeah, you can go do whatever you want. You can fight for equal rights. You can go out and if you want your life goal to be able to uh, live by the beach for the rest of your life, then you'll make that into your purpose for life. It is the universe itself doesn't need to have a goal or a purpose or some kind of meaning in order for a person themselves to be able to gain meaning out of the finite life that we're living.
Whatever you pick, it will provide you with an island of meaning in the vast ocean of our universe's meaninglessness. As I said in the beginning, while this may sound beautiful, it's not only rationally inconsistent to the highest degree, but also a ridiculous form of self-deception. Because if the material universe is all there is, the notion that you can actually create meaning, which is of course an immaterial concept, makes as much sense as to think that you can throw a bucket into a dried up well to pull water from it. In addition,
I I don't see how that's like that. I don't see how that kind of like metaphor simply works. Um, Still really hasn't explained like why somebody can't create meaning out of their life, even though the universe doesn't have any kind of purpose.
even if you could magically create meaning in a materialistic and objectively meaningless universe, this subjectively created meaning of yours would be entirely pointless. For if ultimately nothing matters, then whatever you contrive to be your purpose won't matter either at the end of the day. Let me illustrate.
Okay, now he's saying nothing matters as mean it's just ultimately pointless when people are saying that the universe has like no intrinsic meaning. There's no, I mean, it doesn't exist like for human sake. It just exists because it exists, and that's just the way it is. He is. It seems like he's like conflating two different ideas.
This. Imagine we lived in a world in which healthy food does not exist, but everything we take in would cause us to become sick. Now, in such a world, you are of course free to talk about creating for yourself a healthy diet. But that would not change the fact that whatever so-called diet you pick, it will make you sick, just like any other food you could take in. In the same way,
That okay, so we're in a world where food makes people sick, um, and somebody wants to try to create healthy, well, quote unquote healthy food. In that existence, the food that they're eating would be considered healthy, um, though they may be getting sick from it. Uh, it's the only thing that they could eat. Uh, I don't really understand what he's trying to get at.
to say that the universe is ultimately meaningless, but that you can still pick some cute little diet of meaning for yourself is nothing short of delusional. By the way, you don't have to take my word for it. Check out Friedrich Nietzsche or Jean-Paul Sartre, who are two of history's most important atheist philosophers. Nietzsche said that once you do away with God, the world will basically turn into something like an abandoned, dark, haunted marketplace where no one wants to be as it's been completely drained of meaning.
No. No, like, just because people don't believe in some kind of fictional higher power does not mean there is no meaning to life. People do what they do because they want to do something. It's just it's this guy doesn't really seem to be able to understand that you don't need to have some kind of puppet master in order for your life to have meaning. In my opinion, it's a whole lot sadder to have to believe that something outside of yourself is why you're there, and it's what gives your life meaning. It's like you can you can have your own dreams if you want. You know, uh, think of something that you strive to want to do. Is there you know maybe some kind of field of research you want to learn? Some kind of maybe you want to learn how to craft something, or uh, you know maybe learn a sport or an instrument. That can easily be a purpose, even if it's short term. It's a purpose, and there's always some kind of long term uh, dream you can try to fulfill. Like I've said before, even if it's just like you know your dream is to retire at 50 and live by the beach for the rest of your life. That's a purpose in life. uh, one does not need a some type of divinity in order to have some kind of meaning in life.
Truly lived what he preached, as he spent the last years of his life in a madhouse. Similarly, Sartre, in his play No Exit, depicted reality without God, ironically enough, as hell, and affirmed that life was absurd, but that we should just get on with it somehow, I guess. More recently, another atheist philosopher, Loyal Rue, confessed that even though all of reality is utterly meaningless, we cannot actually live this way, as this would lead to something of an existential collapse. And so he
I I don't understand why he thinks that listing these three atheistic philosophers somehow is like the standard for how atheists should think, when atheism is just the rejection of a divinity. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't deal with any other part of what a person believes or how they behave. It's just that somebody says God exists, and a person says, I reject said claim because I have not seen any evidence. Um, so, trying to name some atheists and quote them and saying that, oh well, they said this about life, and that it uh, fits every single atheist, does not work whatsoever. um, this type of philosophical thinking, if I'm correct, fits underneath nihilism or nihilism, where people pretty much believe that everything is ultimately pointless, uh, but it is also a matter of what you decide to do, even if you believe everything is pointless.
blatantly suggested that we should just deceive ourselves and propagate what he called the noble lie that meaning exists even though it really doesn't. So, as I said in the beginning, when atheists talk about creating meaning, they are simply deluding themselves. It's probably only a minority who, like Dr. Rue, actually admit that meaning can only be affirmed by an act of straightforward self-deception. But this doesn't change the fact that self-delusion is exactly what's going on here. Having said all this, there is one last thing which needs to be mentioned here, which further adds insult to injury. Think about this. If objective meaning doesn't exist, how come the atheist comes to the meaningful conclusion that this is so? See, the sentence, "there is no objective meaning to the universe," is itself a statement that claims to carry objective meaning, and yet the proposition is that the universe is devoid of such meaning.
He's using like different definitions of meaning and trying to act like it's the same. So I'm just not even going to really address that. There's no meaning to the universe. There's no purpose to the universe. But trying to say, uh, the other way he's trying to use like meaning is like it's defined as this way. He's just he's been using like several definitions for the same word and trying to act like it's all the same, but it's just not working that way.
Which means that the atheist's denial of objective meaning is nothing but a self-contradiction and therefore complete nonsense. Christianity, on the other hand, can coherently affirm meaning as it postulates a divine mind who has infused the entire universe as well as human existence with meaning and value. This is why it's not only the more rational option than atheism, but also the one that is more practically relevant and actually livable. Now, does any of what I said prove that atheism is false and that God exists? No. Or does it suggest that all atheists are miserable? No. What it does show, however, is that atheists who hold onto their self-contradictory notion of meaning are rather like castaways who hope to be rescued by catching a deflated life belt. Here's the thing. We talk about meaning all the time. And if you're watching this video, you're likely to care about meaning yourself. Now, this intuition of ours that our lives are actually meaningful is fully expected and no surprise on the assumption that Christianity is true. However, if we assume atheism to be true, the very fact that
I mean, before we can like assume that Christianity is correct about God creating a purpose for the universe and stuff, we actually gotta prove, or the person making the claim of that has to prove that God exists and that it is the Christian God that exists, which is a hard claim to prove, and in my opinion, so far, has yet to be proven in any such way.
talk about meaning cannot be explained, but it can only be explained away. But hey, then again, rational explanations have never been a strength of atheists in the first place, so I guess there's really no surprise to that.